You woke with a heavy body, feeling the cold dampness seeping through the straw beneath you. The faint, persistent scent of wet earth crept into your nostrils before your eyes even dared to part. A stubborn reminder of relentless rains that never seemed to cease. Somewhere distant, the low, dragging rumble of stones tumbling down the mountainside stirred a quiet anxiety deep within your chest. Though you had long accepted, there was nothing to be done but carry on your labor. Your worn hands clutched the coarse wooden spade, bracing yourself for the familiar, endless ritual of reinforcing the castle's earthen walls, meticulously built, but forever vulnerable in this unforgiving land. The pale blue of dawn stretched thin across the brooding sky, its light muted beneath thick, swollen clouds that hung heavy like a shroud above the village asleep beneath a blanket of mist. The cool, damp air felt thick with anticipation, pressing close to your skin as your breath rose in faint, visible puffs. Beneath your calloused feet, the cold mud yielded slowly, clinging to rough straw sandals as you took cautious steps. The sharp, acrid scent of old smoke lingered faintly from last night's hearth, mingling with the fresh, biting tang of rain-soaked soil. Your eyelids trembled slightly, a subtle shiver betraying the weight in your limbs. As your fingers traced the gritty, slick surface of the mud bricks, feeling the cold seep slowly into your skin. Around you, the village seemed to hold its breath. No crowing roosters, no playful children's calls, only the steady drip-drip from overhanging eaves and the distant murmur of rolling stones. A warning unspoken but urgent. If today a phone dying sparks quiet panic, you imagined how desperate it must have felt when the last piece of firewood turned to ash in these feudal days. You bent low, hands folding the wet earth into place with exquisite slowness. Each clump of mud was heavy and cool against your fingers, a messy mixture of clay, straw, and sweat that clung stubbornly as you shaped walls that were meant to stand against nature's fury, but might not. The rhythm of this ancient, repetitive dance, the dull thud of stones settling, the slow scrape of muddy palms, the soft hiss of water trickling down uneven surfaces, all merged with your heart's tired beat. Nearby, a faint warmth tried to stretch its fingers. A small fire crackled quietly in the communal hearth, casting tentative light that seemed to flicker with a fragile hope. Suddenly, the usual soundscape shifted. The low rumble ceased. The gentle barking that usually echoing through the village stopped abruptly. You exchanged a quick glance with a neighbor, though words remained unspoken. Something was different. A silent tension, taut and waiting like the tight string of a bow, pulled at the edges of the morning calm. The mountain felt breathless, holding back something terrible, yet unseen. your hands paused mid-motion, heart tightening in quiet dread, before Morpheus sweeps you away into deeper dreams. Take a moment to check if you still subscribed. Sometimes the button vanishes, and I wouldn't want you to miss the next soothing stories for sleep. While you're at it, leave a gentle like, soft as a pillow. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what hour is it? Your presence keeps this quiet corner alive. Thanks for being part of it. You stand still, the sudden silence pressing in on you, like thick fog folding over your shoulders. The usual chorus of the village lies muted, as if the world is holding its breath along with you. You begin to sense the weight of the moment. Something lingers beyond the mist-shrouded hills, unseen but unmistakably present. Your fingers tighten around the handle of your spade, rough and worn from years of labor. As a faint chill winds its way beneath the layers of your coarse clothing. Slowly, you shift your gaze upwards, tracing the outline of the mountain that looms above the village, its jagged edges barely distinct against the dull gray of the dawn sky. The clouds gather low, swollen with rain yet to fall, pressing down upon the earth and your heart with equal insistence. The air tastes damp and heavy. The scent of wet stone and moss wraps around you like a shawl, grounding you in this moment of waiting. You draw in a slow breath, feeling the cool moisture settle deep in your lungs before you begin to move again. The ground beneath your feet is slick and uneven, the muddy earth squelching softly under each careful step. You tread lightly, aware that every sound might carry through the dense, still air. Your sandals dragging at the mud, the soft scrape of your spade's edge briefly kissing the ground. From the corner of your eye, a thin thread of smoke rises from the hearth of the communal fire. Its subtle flicker casts a wavering glow across the damp stones around it, like a fragile promise amid the vast, veiled quiet. You let the warmth seep slowly into your chilled skin, a small comfort against the creeping dampness that lingers like a second skin. Every tiny crackle, every subtle hiss of moisture evaporating from burning wood holds your attention as if it might tell a secret. Your hands return to their task, folding the wet earth with deliberate slowness. Each handful of mud is heavy, cold, and stubborn, resisting your touch even as you coax it into place. The straw, interwoven with clay, rubs against your skin, rough yet familiar, like a memory etched into every gesture. The rhythm of your movements becomes a steady pulse. Scoop, press, smooth. The world narrowing until the only sound is the slow whisper of earth settling beneath your palms. The mountain's stillness presses close again. You notice that even the usual scurry of small creatures is absent. The village animals remain tucked away, hidden in their shelters, ears twitching against the unnatural hush. The usual path along the outer wall, your routine to check for weak spots, feels different today. You walk it slowly, eyes scanning, ears straining for the faintest sound. The mud clings to your sandals, reluctant to release you, as one foot moves before the other in a careful, measured procession. Your breath forms a mist that lingers just long enough before fading, as if even the air is reluctant to disturb the profound quiet. The heavy clouds moisten your skin with a fine drizzle, so soft it might be imagined, glistening on the darkened stones and tangled roots that clutch the hill's base. You pause, hand pressed against a cold, rough brick in the castle wall, feeling its silent solidity. It is old, worn by countless seasons of wind and rain, yet it endures, mirroring your own grit. A sudden movement catches your eye. You turn slowly, muscles tensed, catching the subtle shift of a shadow, far beyond the ridge, a dark shape retreating into the mist, barely perceptible. A prickle of unease travels like cold water down your spine. Your heart flutters with a cautious rhythm, each beat measured, deliberate. You tell yourself it could be nothing, a wandering bird, the play of light and fog. But the air seems different now, thickened with something unspoken, waiting just out of reach. Your hands tighten once more around the spade's handle. The wooden surface feels rough and yielding, familiar beneath your fingers, but steady, grounding. You exhale slowly and turn back to the wall, reclaiming your slow, methodical work. Each shift of earth, each careful adjustment of damp straw, is a small act of defiance against the invisible weight gathering in the valley. As the minutes stretch like the slow, steady drip of water through a cracked vessel, you find solace in repetition. You check the wall's edges, pressing fingers into the mud, feeling for cracks, and trace uncertain lines in a dance you have long memorized. The threatening hush of the mountain's breath is a mute companion, a shadow just behind the edges of your awareness. The faintest flicker of light from the communal fire in the distance pulses rhythmically, as if echoing your own heartbeat. Its glow touches your face, warm and fragile, a reminder of endurance in the face of relentless uncertainty. You press your palms firmly into the earth, noting how the mud cools beneath your touch, sticky and heavy, pulling slow traces down your sleeves. Then, the stillness breaks subtly, a faint, almost imperceptible shift in the air. The rumble of stones, once a distant pulse, lurches now into sharper focus. A sudden tremor underfoot unsettles the earth, and your breath catches sharply. You freeze, senses taut, feeling the weight of something larger than the slow, steady labor you have known. The mountain exhales with a low groan, as if the ancient stones themselves are awakening. Your eyes fix on the path beyond the wall, the way leading into shadow. A cold whisper brushes your nape, the weight of unseen eyes. You hesitate, spade poised, heart heavy with the unspoken question echoing in the silent woods. Whatever waits beyond the turning earth offers no comfort, only the quiet pull of inevitability. And then, from the fog, a faint figure begins to emerge, slow and deliberate, blurring the line where shadow melts into form. An arrival that shifts the morning's fragile balance, holding the breath of the village still again, waiting for what must come next. You freeze, eyes narrowing, as the faint figure lingers beyond the edge of sight, a shade suspended between mist and mountain, neither friend nor foe, yet weighed with an unspoken threat. The cold ache at the back of your neck grows sharper, a slow, crawling insistence that this unease is tethered to something deeper than the silence itself. Your breath catches, threads of it escaping in small clouds as the damp air clings to your ribs. The world pressures inward. The soft drone of dripping water returns, each drop a measured tick in the quiet symphony of the morning. You remain still, every muscle taut beneath your rough-spun tunic, waiting, as if exhaling too soon might dissolve the fragile boundary between the known and the unknown. Slowly, you lower your gaze to the spade in your hands, feeling the familiar grain of the worn wood. Pressed against your calloused palms, its weight is a small comfort, solid and persistent, grounding you against the shifting currents of doubt swirling in your mind. You wrap your fingers tighter, knuckles paling, tightening your grip as the muted world holds its breath alongside you. A faint breeze stirs, brushing through the tangled roots and loose straw underfoot. Its moist fingers trail along your neck, carrying with it the sharp scent of wet stone and cold moss. You lift a tentative foot, the mud squelching softly beneath your sandal, reluctant to release its hold as you take measured steps toward the figure. The village remains hushed, the usual stirrings of morning absent, as if drawn into the same tense vigil. As you approach, the mist thickens, curling like smoke between the trembling trees along the ridge. The shape becomes clearer, a solitary silhouette, swathed in soaked fabrics that cling to thin, weathered limbs. The figure moves with a slow deliberateness, each step calculated, mirroring the rhythm of your own cautious advance. The dirt beneath echoes faint, muffled thuds, blending with the distant, steady heartbeat of the fire crackling softly at the communal hearth. You pause, hand pressing against the rough bark of a gnarled tree, feeling the dampness seep beneath your fingertips, grounding you again. The figure hesitates, then takes a step down from the slope, a fragile determination woven into their slow, deliberate movements. Their presence disturbs the thick quiet, drawing a thin line of tension that vibrates just beneath your skin. The sky arches heavy above, pale gray pressed against sharper edges of rock, droplets poised upon leaf and branch. The mountain looms, a silent sentinel shadowing the valley, its vast silence swallowed anew by the gathering mist. Time seems to fold, stretching and thinning with the slow passage of each breath, each careful movement. You sense the worn fabric of your pace fading into stillness, the world contracting to the narrow space between you and the figure. The scent of earth and smoke mingles, a whispered conversation carried by the damp air. The village beyond holds fast in its suspended quiet, as if waiting for the delicate balance between presence and absence to tip. Your hands fall away from your spade, replaced by a reluctant curiosity that stirs beneath your ribs like a cautious flame struggling against the damp chill. You inch forward, toes sliding over slick stones and softened mud, each step a whispered negotiation with the ground. The figure's outline blurs again, shifting, as if breathing with the fog itself, elusive and yet impossibly present. A faint rustle sounds, leaves brushing, a single twig bending beneath unseen weight. Your heart tightens with a slow, measured beat, the rhythm syncing with the gentle crackle from the distant fire. The pale light flickers, casting long shadows that twist and fold across the damp earth. A fragile dance of light and dark. You reach the figure's side, though the space feels vast, a gulf measured not in distance, but in the fragile weight of shared tension. There is no movement, no greeting, only the slow, deliberate breathing mingling in the hazy dawn. The figure turns just enough for a glimpse, eyes shadowed beneath a bent brow, weathered and wary, reflecting the tremulous light of the fire beyond. You feel the subtle shift of emotion. Wary, yes, but tempered by a quiet resilience that mirrors your own, forged from long days of endurance. The air between you hums with the unspoken stories of work and waiting, of battles fought silently in the steady rhythm of daily survival. Without words, you understand the delicate balance. A moment held suspended, as fragile and vital as the slow drip of water from the eaves. The mountain exhales again, a low, grinding rumble that shakes loose a small cascade of stones, scattering them down the slope with soft clatters that echo like distant thunder. You glance back toward the village, where the faint glow of firelight flickers ever dimmer, swallowed slowly by rising mist. The path ahead stretches into shadow, a long ribbon of uncertainty curling beneath heavy skies. Yet within the tense stillness, a small warmth takes root, a steady pulse beneath the weight of gathering dread. Turning back to the figure, you sense a shift, a motion barely perceptible, a step that hints at movement toward the unknown. Your hands find your spade once more, fingers curling around the familiar wood, steady and sure. The chill seeps deeper still, pressing at your skin like the first breath of a coming storm. And then, as the lingering fog parts just enough to reveal the narrow trail winding up the mountainside, you realize that the silent visitor is no mere shadow of the mist, but a harbinger of change, bringing with them the slow, inexorable turn of fate, drawing you irrevocably forward into the waiting dark. You step hesitantly onto the narrow path, tracing the slope between the dense trees and the relentless mist. Each footfall settles quietly into the slick earth, the mud offering reluctant but unyielding resistance. The faint, shape shrouded in moisture, remains still, a stubborn shadow painting itself against the pale gray of dawn. An uneasy silence weighs heavily over everything, as if even the wind has been stilled by the same tension pressing into your lungs. Your gaze lingers on the narrow trail winding upward, each curve swallowed slowly by thickening fog. The heavy scent of damp moss and cold stone clings to the air, wrapping around you like a cold cloak, shrouding your senses in moist quietude. A faint drip from swollen leaves taps a soft, steady rhythm, barely a whisper in the vast hush that blankets the forest. You inhale deeply, the moist breath filling your lungs with a chill that settles deep in your chest, steadying your resolve while sharpening every sense. The figure ahead does not speak or turn, but shifts slightly, just enough to suggest movement, suppressed by caution. The fabric around their body clings, soaked and heavy, tugging softly at each deliberate step. You notice the slow rise and fall of the shoulders beneath the sodden cloth, marking a steady heartbeat in the breathing stillness. Your hands tighten once more around the spade, the worn wood solid and rough against your palms, a tether anchoring you as uncertainty coils tightly within. Slowly you follow, each footstep careful, measured in the thick silence of mist. Soft sounds mingle with the steady drip from the canopy, the gentle scrape of straw twisted beneath your sandals, the distant, muted crackle of the communal fire struggling against the damp. The world narrows to this narrow strip of muddy earth, the space between you and the silent figure. Time seems to slow. Each breath stretches out, each movement weighted with the possibility of change. Ahead, the trail curves beneath overhanging branches heavy with rain, droplets poised like fragile beads trembling on leaves. A cool draft slips past, tracing an icy path along your neck and arms, raising gooseflesh beneath your coarse, wet tunic. The scent of cold earth, wet pine needles, and a faint trace of old fire smoke mingles in the damp air, a quiet reminder of countless mornings shaped by these elements. Your eyes catch a flicker of light as the mist briefly parts, a single glint of something metallic at the figure's side. It catches and holds the pale dawn, a sharp contrast to the muted tones surrounding you both. The moment stretches, fragile and tentative, before the fog rolls back in to swallow the gleam once more, as if reluctant to reveal what it conceals. You pause beside a moss-covered stone, pressing your hand to its damp, rough surface. The coolness seeps slowly into your skin, anchoring you in the present moment, while the lingering weight of the mountain's breath presses against your senses. The wind stirs again softly, weaving its way through the gnarled branches overhead, carrying with it a whisper of movement far above the tree line. The silent figure steps forward without hesitation now, breaking the tension that held the air taut. Their slow footsteps leave faint impressions in the mud, small, deliberate marks, absorbing the weight of cautious intent. You match each step carefully, the rhythm syncing with your own, a slow, steady conversation spoken through movement alone. As you draw closer, the figure's shape begins to clarify beneath soaked hood and threadbare cloak. Their face remains veiled in shadow, but the rawness in their posture speaks of long endurance, fatigue carved into every careful breath. The surrounding mist clings thick, wrapping the two of you in a fragile, shifting enclosure that blurs the boundaries between seen and unseen worlds. A subtle sound breaks through, the distant cry of a lone bird, brief and hollow, echoing over the steep ridges. The note seems fragile, a solitary lament woven into the vast stillness. It fades quickly, swallowed by the dense fog like a sigh released in shared solitude. You turn your gaze upward, tracing the jagged edge of the mountain looming dark above. Your fingers, chilled and stiff, wrap tightly around the spade again, feeling the worn grain beneath your palm, a silent comfort in this moment of quiet unease. The figure halts beside a small clearing where the trees thin, revealing glimpses of the village far below, cloaked in early mist and silence. The firelight flickers in the distance, weak, steady, a faint pulse against the dark, like a candle stubbornly held against the encroaching night. Your breath forms a brief cloud that drifts away, mingling with the fog. The air tastes sharp with moisture and earthiness, carrying vague traces of smoke and something else, faint and unsettling, just beyond recognition. A slow tremor passes through the ground underfoot, subtle yet unmistakable. Stones shift gently on the mountainside, scattering with muffled clatter, stirring a quiet cascade that echoes faintly through the valley. The figure's shadow blends once more with the swirling mist, their presence a quiet question hanging in the gloom. You sense their eyes on you, watchful, wary, yet without menace, holding a fragile truce in the face of what lies ahead. You hesitate, the weight of the unknown folded into the moment, like the heavy clouds above. Then, as if drawn by an unseen thread, the figure reaches into their cloak and reveals a small, weathered object, etched with marks you cannot decipher, offering it silently, a gift or a warning cast in the cold morning light. Your fingers twitch, caught between acceptance and reluctance, both burdened by the slow, inevitable turning of fate. The mountain exhales once more, a low rumble vibrating through the earth, carrying with it a promise of change. Quiet, steady, and relentless. You stand frozen at the edge of this fragile moment, heart drumming in slow cadence with the pulse of distant stones. The path above stretches darker now, winding into the unknown, swallowed by shadows that shift beneath gathering clouds. And just as the figure's outline begins to dissolve again into the mist, a sharp, sudden crack splits the air, a splintering sound close behind you, pulling your breath into a jagged pause. The weight of unseen eyes presses closer, closing the distance, and you realize the waking chill is only the first breath of the night to come. You stand frozen, your breath caught in the frail space between a whisper and a sigh. The sharp crack splitting the air behind ripples through the stillness, fractured like the jagged edges of the mountain's long-forgotten scars. Your heart pounds against ribs tightened by cold and caution, the rhythm slow but urgent, every sense strain sharpened. You turn your head just enough to glimpse the dark shape slinking away through the thick fog, swallowed as if the earth itself claims it back. The silence returns, denser than before, folding over you like a damp cloak, heavy with secrets. Your fingers tighten around your spade, its wooden handle rough and biting against your skin, grounding you amidst the swirling questions that prick at your mind. The heavy breath of the mountain holds, suspended, waiting, and you feel the weight of inevitability pressing into your bones. You take the first step forward, the mud welcoming your sandal with a soft, reluctant squelch. Each movement is deliberate, slow, as if the ground beneath you is willing to betray your presence to the unseen watcher, lurking beyond the mist. Your eyes search the ridges and shadows, tracing the outlines of twisted trees and slick stones. The pale gray sky presses down, thick with rain unborn, dissolving the horizon into a smudge of smoky silver. A shiver crawls up your spine, not born from the chill, but something quieter, subterranean, the anxiety of all the quiet moments before the storm. Your breath curls in front of your face, fragile and ephemeral, fading as quickly as it forms. Around you the world seems paused, suspended between the last echoes of light and the coming shroud of night. You find yourself drawn to the edge of the narrow path, where the fog clings thickly, swirling in lazy coils, like tendrils of breath escaping some ancient creature. The air tastes of wet stone and moss, sharp and raw, a reminder of how small you are beneath the relentless gaze of the mountain. You press your palm against the rough bark of a tree, feeling its coldness sink slowly into your flesh, a silent pulse anchoring you to the earth. The figure from before remains at the edge of your vision, more shadow now than shape, a ripple of damp cloth, the glint of something tucked beneath layers of soaked fabric. You hesitate, the air between you taut with unspoken tension, fragile yet brimming with unseen currents that seem to hum softly in the marrow of your bones. Your gaze drifts downward, catching the mud-streaked edge of your spade, digging into the earth. The familiarity is a faint comfort, a quiet rebellion against the creeping weight of uncertainty pressing against your chest. Each breath you draw is slow and deliberate, a steadying chant whispered between the pulsing heartbeat of the earth and the faint, crackling echo of the distant fire. The sound draws your attention, a faint, rhythmic tapping from far below, delicate and distant, like the beating of countless small wings hidden in the underbrush. You try to hold your breath, letting the noise thread softly through the heavy silence, weaving a fragile connection to the world you barely touch. It is a reminder that life persists even in the shadows, a gentle pulse humming beneath the cold stillness. Your steps resume, measured and cautious. The path narrows between gnarled roots, slick with rain and glistening stones, shaped by centuries of wind and water. Each footfall presses slowly into the mud, leaving behind a fleeting mark that the earth is eager to reclaim. The figure moves ahead of you, slowing, pausing at a bend where the trees open to reveal a mist-veiled clearing. As you approach, the glow of the village's hearth fires faintly flickers through the rolling fog, fragile flames struggling to hold the darkness at bay. The scent of burning wood mingles with the dampness in the air, smoke curling upward with a lazy grace, carrying wisps of warmth and transient hope. You feel it brush softly against your cheeks, a tender caress amid the oppressive hush. The figure halts and turns slowly to face you, the outline blurred, but the weight of their gaze unmistakable. You sense stories folded into the lines of their weathered face, tales of long nights spent under cold skies, battles fought in silence beneath heavy clouds. There is weariness there, but also a quiet strength that mirrors your own endurance. Your hands instinctively return to your spade, grasping the familiar wood as if drawing courage from its steadfast presence. The figure steps closer, the distance shrinking, their breath weaving a faint mist that mingles with your own. The air trembles with a subtle current, an unspoken pact hanging between you, fragile yet resolute. Just as you prepare to reach out, to bridge the silence between stranger and self, a low rumble thrums through the earth, a sound ancient and slow, rising like the mountain awakening from a long slumber. Stones shift, rattling softly down the slopes, their music echoing like distant thunder in the valley's hollow. The firelight flutters, casting elongated shadows that dance with the mist. You glance back toward the village, its sleeping silhouette cloaked in tendrils of gray that curl and drift like restless spirits. The path ahead coils into darkness, a ribbon winding toward unknown trials, cloaked in gathering storm clouds. And then, just as the figure's form begins to dissolve once more into the fog's soft embrace. A new sound cuts sharply, like the rasp of metal against stone, deliberate and close. It draws your gaze downward, revealing in the faint glimmer of dawn's muted light a slender blade, worn and nicked, held loosely in the stranger's hand. Your heart tightens, breath shallow and caught, as you realize this is no mere visitor veiled by mist, but a bearer of fate's slow turning, carrying with them the fragile weight of decisions yet to come, and the undeniable pull of what waits silently beyond the mountain's breath. You step back from the mist-veiled clearing, your breath still trailing faint clouds that dissolve into the heavy gray air. The figure's outline has thinned, melting back into the swirling fog, as if the mountain itself has reclaimed the fragile shape it briefly lent you. Your fingers linger on the worn wood of your spade, solid beneath your palm, a tether to this uncertain moment hanging between silence and shadow. The forest around you feels different now, as though the gathering mist carries whispers of things once hidden, slow secrets that crawl beneath the surface of your skin. Leaves stir with a slow, reluctant tremble, the soft rustle barely breaching the thick hush. The earth beneath your sandals pulses faintly, each step a quiet defiance against the unyielding cold, the relentless damp that sinks deep into every fiber of your being. You begin to move down the narrow path, each footfall softened by the slick mud that clings stubbornly to your sandals. The steady rhythm of your steps becomes a small anchor in the vast quiet, pulling you gently forward. The twisted trees lean in, their skeletal branches dripping with moisture, casting long, wavering shadows that shift like ghosts in the faded light. A faint trail of smoke rises once more from the village hearths below, thin and pale against the early light. It weaves through the layers of fog, a delicate ribbon promising warmth where the chill gnaws at your skin. The scent of burning wood mixes with the earthy dampness, a fragile beacon amidst the oppressive stillness. You inhale slowly, letting the smoky breath settle deep in your lungs, an old comfort felt even in the thickest fog. Your hands move to your spade once again, fingertips tracing the familiar grain before setting the tool firmly into the soft earth at the path's edge. The ground presses cold and yielding beneath the blade, the resistance familiar, steady. You pause, listening, deep and attentive, to the subtle language of the mountain. The distant drip of water, the faint shift of loosened stones settling, the low hum of wind threading through the needles high above. The silence wraps around you like a shroud, heavy yet fragile. Somewhere beyond, the village stirs barely perceptible, an animal's breath, the cautious murmur of a farmer beginning the slow rituals of the day. The world feels paused, fragile as the thinnest ice stretching across a quiet pond. Your heart slows into the rhythm of waiting, each exhale a soft release of shadowed tension held tight in your chest. A stray breeze brushes past, cool and damp, leaving a trace of wet moss and stone on your cheek. The scent anchors you back to the moment. The cold earth, the faint trace of smoke, and the endless gray sky pressing down with its low-hanging clouds. The distant mountain stretches out, immense and indifferent, its sharp ridges barely distinct in the thickening fog. You shift your gaze upward, catching the first hesitant glow where the pale sun feebly tries to push through the cloud cover. Its light is muted, scattered behind the veil of rain, yet it carries a quiet promise, soft, imperceptible, as if the mountain breathes beneath it, slow and steady. For a brief second, warmth seems to touch your skin, fleeting as the flicker of a candle flame. In the past dark, your steps resume cautiously, each movement steeped in the slow, deliberate calm you've grown accustomed to. Every sense remains alert, poised on the edge of intuition as the path winds upward again. With each careful footfall, the mud suckles reluctantly at your sandals, the sticky earth urging time to stretch, to slow, to breathe. Near a bend, your gaze catches something half buried in the mire. A splinter of dark wood, cracked and weathered, familiar somehow. You bend and reach, fingers closing around the fragment, the rough texture biting into your skin. It feels heavy with unspoken history, a remnant lost to the mountain's slow erasure. The fragment's jagged edges press quietly into your palm, connecting you to the steady weight of countless forgotten days. A drop of water falls from a low-hanging branch, landing softly on your hand, the sudden coolness sharp against the rough fragment. The sound ripples through the silence, small but profound, like a secret finally made audible. Around you, the forest seems to hold its breath again, waiting, listening, as if the mountain itself has whispered a challenge into the damp air. Ahead, the path narrows, swallowed gradually by thick undergrowth, slick with moisture. Shadows pool beneath the twisted trunks, a slow interplay of light and dark, of presence and absence. The faint shape of the figure lingers once more in the corner of your vision, part silhouette, part mist, as if drawn by the same invisible thread, pulling you deeper into the mountain's breath. Your grip tightens on the spade, the wooden handle grounding you against the rising pull of uncertainty. The weight at your side feels real, heavy with meaning you cannot yet unravel. Each breath you draw is thick with dampness, sharp with the scent of earth and smoke, with the faint metallic whisper of a coming storm. The mountain shifts beneath your feet, a slow, deliberate movement that resonates through the roots and stones. A low rumble rolls quietly, unsettling loose earth with a subtle tremor that speaks of change. The heavy clouds press closer together, darkening the sky, drawing a curtain across the wan light. You glance back once more toward the village, the faint glow of hearths flickering like distant stars swallowed by the rising gray. The path ahead seems endless, a winding thread fading into shadow and mist, spiraling beyond the reach of sight. The figure turns slowly into the thick fold of fog, their shape dissolving like smoke carried on a silent breeze. A sudden sharp crack splinters through the chilled air, a sound close, urgent, slicing clean through the silence. Your heart leaps, breath caught, as the unseen eyes tighten their hold. The waiting night drawing steadily near, and in that fracture of sound, you know the mountain's quiet is broken. Whatever has come will not be left behind. You stand at the edge of the clearing, the dampness of the morning still clinging to your skin and clothing, as the fog curls lazily around your feet. The silhouette of the figure has disappeared into the mist once more, a faint absence that somehow weighs heavier than their presence had. Your breath leaves you in slow, visible puffs, mingling with the cold air as you press your palms into the rough bark of a nearby tree, grounding yourself in the moment. The silence stretches wide, settling over the valley like a thick robe dampened by endless rain. The scent of wet stone and moss clings stubbornly to the earth beneath your boots, a constant companion to the slow rhythm of your labors. You turn from the clearing and begin the descent back toward the village, each footfall a soft, reluctant imprint in the sticky mud. Your steps are measured and careful. The earth's grasp pulls at your sandals, reminding you of the weight of this waking hour. Above, the clouds, heavy and swollen, smother the pale light of dawn, their fat edges blurred into uniform gray. As you move, the faint crackling of the communal hearth reaches your ears, a fragile thread stitching you back to the village's muted heartbeat. The smoke trails upward, thin as a whisper, dissolving into the damp air where it mingles with the scent of rain and earth. The warmth of that fire presses against the chill crawling into your bones, a brittle comfort that masks nothing but the lengthening shadow of unspoken worries. Your fingers brush the handle of your spade, feeling the rough grain press gently into your palm, steady and unwavering, despite the tremble of uncertainty threading through your limbs. The narrow path coils beneath the ancient trees as you return, roots glistening with moisture and draped in fine lacework of dripping leaves. The soft susurrus of water running off stone edges and tangled branches plays a steady counterpoint to the quiet murmur of awakened birds hidden in the mist. Yet, even these familiar sounds seem fragile, as if held in check by the same breathless anticipation that freezes your heart mid-beat. Something has shifted, subtle yet undeniable. A whisper too faint to name, weaving its presence through the damp folds of morning. Your hands slowly fold the woven straw in your sleeves, the slow ritual bringing a measure of calm to the tight coil of tension resting behind your ribs. The village lies just ahead, shrouded beneath a veil of rising mist that softens shapes and blurs resolve. The oak-heavy timbers of the castle wall rise before you, dark and slick with rain, their stubborn endurance mirrored by the slow, deliberate beat of your own heart. With each careful step, the sticky mud drags at your legs, the ground reluctant to let go. You pause beside the wall, pressing your cold fingers against the damp bricks, feeling the slow passage of time etched into their rough surfaces. The moss that claims the crevices glistens with fresh droplets, catching what little light filters through the clouded sky. A faint warmth rises from the hearth, the village like a tentative promise, fragile yet persistent amid the stretching gray. Your eyes scan the outline of the mountain above, dark and unmoving beneath its misty shroud. The jagged ridges cut ragged and sharp, distant yet ominously near, as if the stones themselves are watching, waiting for the unseen moment when the quiet will break. The tension gathers in your chest, a slow swelling tide foretelling the approach of a storm, born not of sky, but of something older, woven into the earth's depths. A breeze stirs suddenly, cool and wet, tracing icy fingers along your neck and shoulders, raising the fine hairs on your skin. You shiver, a tremor sliding down your spine as the air thickens with the scent of wet pine and the faintest trace of something metallic, sharp and unfamiliar. The village holds still, breath bated, as the soft rumble returns in the distance, far beneath the canopy of gray. The stones shift again on the mountainside, tumbling in muted cascades that run like a slow pulse beneath the soil. Your gaze catches a fleeting glimpse, a shadow darting behind the thicket, swift and silent, before vanishing into the folds of mist. Your heart contracts with a quiet dread, the slow beat of fear threading through your veins. Each steady exhale is an effort, the air thick enough to cling to your throat. You clutch the handle of your spade tighter, fingers white against the familiar wood, as the weight of inevitability settles across your shoulders. The slow dance continues, earth, stone, and shadow entwined in an ancient rhythm. You taste the cold, damp air, sharp as a whispered warning, and step carefully back onto the path leading inward. Behind you, the village remains locked in quiet vigil, its shape softened by the mist that rises like slow breath from the sleepy hearths. Ahead, the trail narrows once more, winding upward toward the unknown. The figure's presence lingers just beyond sight, a silent thread of anticipation, stitching the morning's calm into taut stillness. Your feet carry you forward through the thickening fog, the spade's weight, both burden and anchor. Suddenly, a sharp, brittle crack echoes from deep within the woods, a snapping twig, sudden and deliberate, followed by a hush so profound it seems to swallow the crack itself. You freeze, breath caught in the hollow between heartbeats. The mountain exhales once more, the slow rumble awakening the stones to life as the mist swirls in restless coil. Narrow shaft of pale light. Their eyes catch yours through the dense curtain of gray, sharp, weathered, and unreadable. There, in that fleeting gaze, you see the slow turning of fate, thickening like the gathering storm, drawing you inexorably toward a shadowed path from which there is no quiet return. You step back from the lingering mist, the cold air pressing firmly into your lungs as your breath escapes in slow, shallow clouds. The figure has faded once again into the gray shroud of dawn, leaving behind a space heavy with silence and unsaid words. Your hands rest against the rough bark of a towering tree, its bark cool and uneven beneath your palm, anchoring you in the quiet weight of the moment. The damp earth beneath your feet sighs softly with each careful step as you turn toward the village. Mud clings stubbornly to your sandals, tugging at your steps as if reluctant to let you leave the mountain's embrace. The faint crackling of the communal fire heralds a tentative warmth, its smoke curling upward in ghostly tendrils that dissolve swiftly into the mist. The scent of burning wood mingles with the ever-present damp decay of moss and soil, pressing into your senses with a bittersweet familiarity. Above, the sky remains a mottled canvas of pale grays, clouds swollen with unfallen rain that seems to hold its breath alongside you. The branches sag under the weight of droplets, water sliding from leaf to leaf in a slow, deliberate cascade that echoes the rhythm of your heartbeat. You draw a cool breath, tasting the sharp tang of wet stone and pine needles, grounding yourself in the scent of the land that has shaped you. Your fingers close once more around the worn wood of your spade, the rough grain steady and yielding beneath your calloused palms. With each measured movement, you press the blade into the cold earth at the path's edge, feeling the soft resistance of mud and root entwined in a slow embrace. The steady scrape of soil beneath the blade becomes a quiet song, a rhythm that pulls your thoughts inward and steady. As you begin the descent, the forest seems to lean closer, its gnarled limbs swaying gently in the faintest stirrings of wind. The mist coils between trunks like slow fingers reaching for escape, obscuring the sharp outlines of stones and roots, until the world blurs into a wet swirl of shadow and muted color. You walk carefully, aware of every subtle shift beneath your feet, the slick slip of mud, the sudden resistance of a hidden stone, the soft crush of damp leaves. Downward, the faint glow of hearth fires glimmers through the veils of fog, small, flickering beacons held tightly against the creeping gray. The scent of smoke grows stronger, wrapping around you like a fragile shawl that offers a hint of refuge amid the relentless chill. Each inhalation brings that warmth deeper, filling the hollow spaces left by cold and solitude. You pause beside a puddle, its surface a blurred mirror reflecting the troubled sky. A sudden swirl disturbs the water, a few fallen leaves spiraling slowly before settling again. Your gaze lingers on the quiet disturbances, the little movements that hint at life pressing steadily onward beneath the thick silence. The world feels caught between two breaths, suspended on the edge of a slow exhale. Your footsteps resume, the squelch of mud beneath your sandals forming a soft undercurrent beneath the gentle murmur of birds hidden in the canopy. Their distant calls carry faint traces of awakening, a fragile chorus threading through the mass of gray, the slow pulse of a day beginning again, despite the weight it carries. The scent of damp earth deepens, layered with the faintest trace of something unfamiliar, a metallic note, sharp and fleeting, carried on a sudden draft. Ahead, the solid, dark bulk of the castle looms, its ancient walls slick with rain and shadow. You reach out, pressing your cold fingers against the woven straw and hardened mud bricks, feeling the silent endurance of a fortress built to resist time and terror alike. The texture is rough, crumbling in places, yet solid, like the memory of every painstaking hour poured into its making. The moss, nestled in the crevices, glistens, Cately like dew, holding a million winter nights in its fragile green. From within the village, the hearth's weak glow bends and flickers, casting long shadows that join the creeping folds of mist. It is a slim thread of hope, fragile yet defiant against the gathering gloom. The chill between stones and around doorways feels almost physical, a ghostly breath that stirs your skin beneath every layer. Your boots cling to the muddy cobblestones as you make your way along the wall, each step slow, deliberate, marked with a heavy patience. Your gaze wanders upward, tracing the jagged line of the mountainside, an indifferent, ancient sentinel hollowed with shadows. The clouds brood dark, pressing down like a lid, muffling the world beneath. Somewhere high above, a faint echo ripples through the damp air, the subtle grinding of stone moving slowly, relentlessly, as if the mountain itself breathes with a weight beyond reckoning. In the pause between breaths, sound catches softly, a twig snapping somewhere close behind. You freeze, heart tightening, senses sharpening to razor edges. The mist curls and shifts, a vaporous whisper, threading through ancient trees and tangled branches. You turn slowly, eyes straining through the gray curtain, searching for the echo's source, the hint of movement that might betray a presence unseen. The spade feels heavier by your side, the familiar grain a small comfort against the tightening knot of unease in your chest. A faint shimmer of movement flickers at the edge of your vision, too swift and subtle to pin, yet undeniable. Instinct pulses beneath the slow calm, a whisper of warning carried in the shifting air. Your breath catches, the cold gathering like a weight, pressing against your skin as the quiet deepens. Above, the clouds split briefly, a faint ray of pale light filtering through to touch the dark earth like a fragile caress. It lingers just long enough to warm your face, a fleeting promise folded into the morning's gray. The figure moves again in the distance, steady, deliberate, with the slow inevitability of a shadow drawn forward by the mountain's breath. You take a step forward, hand tightening once more on your spade, the ground soft and willing beneath your feet. The path winds upward beyond the clearing, swallowed steadily by mist and shadow. And as you advance, the distant rumble rises anew, a low, relentless growl from deep within the mountain's heart, an ancient warning carried on the cold wind. In that moment, the weight of what waits folds over you completely, and you know the quiet has broken, forever shifting the course you must follow. You lower your gaze, watching as the mist slowly thickens around you once more, swallowing the clearing and the remnants of the figure who vanished like smoke in the cold dawn. The mountain exhales a long, low rumble, a quiet farewell, or perhaps just a pause before whatever comes next. You feel the weight of the moment pressing down, but there's a subtle shift, a gentle easing of tension that wasn't there before, as if the breath held tight in the valley has finally been released. The air is damp and still, carrying faint, distant sounds that begin to seep back into the morning. Somewhere far below, the soft murmur of the village stirs awake, a tentative whisper of movement, the quiet shuffle of feet on stone, the gentle buzz of life reawakening after the night's vigil. It is small and fragile but unmistakably real, a pulse of continuity threading through the heavy calm. You take a deep breath, the cold air filling your lungs with sharp clarity. The scent of wet moss and smoke rises up, settling warmly amid the clinging chill. Your fingers brush once more over the familiar grain of your spade's handle, steady and unyielding beneath your palm. With each measured exhale, the slow rhythm of your body matches the steady pulse of the earth beneath your feet. Turning slowly, you begin the descent back toward the village. The path is slippery but welcoming, winding through the soaked, shadowed forest where dew drips from heavy leaves. The branches above glisten with rain, reflecting the pale light that filters through the breaking clouds. Each step releases a soft squelch in the mud, a gentle percussion accompanying your deliberate progress. As you move, the fog thins, unveiling the outlines of thatched roofs and winding lanes shrouded in wreaths of smoke. The dusky glow of hearth fires flickers like fragile stars, faint but resilient against the gray morning light. The scent of burning wood meanders on the cool air, weaving through the village's quiet stirrings, a thread of warmth that pulls at something deep within you. Arriving at the border of the castle's earthen wall, you pause to press your cold fingers against the rough, mud brick surface. The texture is uneven and weathered, marked by countless seasons of storm and labor. Here lie the tangible results of your work, a testament to steady hands and unwavering resolve amid uncertainty. Moss glimmers faintly where the moisture lingers, a quiet green contrast to the stone's somber hues. Beyond the wall, the village unfolds like a slow breath exhaled after a long-held silence. Faces appear at doorways, tentative and shaded by weary eyes that carry the weight of nights past and days barely begun. Children peek from behind curtains, watching the slow return of dawn with cautious hope. The tension that had nestled inside you begins to ease, the thick fog inside your chest lifting like a veil. It is not a triumphant victory story. There are no grand celebrations or loud boasts, but a quiet recognition of endurance, the unsung courage in the face of relentless days. The mountain still looms, vast, indifferent, and eternal, but now it feels less like a looming threat and more like an ancient companion, breathing alongside you in slow, matched cadence. You touch the side of your face, feeling the faint warmth of embers from hearth fires carried on the breeze, a gentle contrast to the lingering dampness. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks softly, a lonely reminder that life persists, stubborn and unbowed, through mist and rain, shadow and silence. Slowly, you straighten. The spade feels lighter now, its worn handle a steady comfort you know well. The earth beneath your feet, once reluctant and cold, now holds the imprint of your passage, a record of care and persistence written in mud and straw. The village breathes again, its heartbeats slow but certain. The mountain's distant rumble fades to a murmur, softened by time and stillness. A pale sun breaks hesitantly through the veil of clouds, casting a muted light that touches the wet branches with fragile gold. It is a quiet blessing, a gentle promise held in the folds of a new day. You move forward with steady steps, each one a surrender to the slow, inevitable flow of life's rhythm. The spade, your constant companion, rests lightly at your side as you walk beneath the canopy of silvering leaves. Beneath the cold stone, beneath the mist and mud, the world continues, relentless, patient, eternal. And in this soft awakening, with the mountain watching silently from its weathered throne, you find the peace in simply being, the steady pulse of the earth underfoot, the fragile glow of the village hearth, the quiet breath between one moment and the next. Here, in the endless cadence of rain and stone, you close your eyes for a moment and let the quiet wash over you, a lullaby woven from earth and mist, shadow and light, ending at last in the tender stillness of sleep.